Yeah, you're so articulate when you get to the naming the peoples, making the word talky goodness.
Talky.
Yeah, okay, so... Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Ontario Permaculture. I'm Bryce Murph'Ariens.
And I'm Misty Murph'Ariens.
In this episode, we're excited to bring you something we had an opportunity to do this past week, to go to a radio station locally and have an interview there. It was sort of a two-way thing. We were both interviewed and we had the opportunity to interview them as well.
So you can hear the interview that was on the radio if you go to the website that's in the description at the end here. And now we're going to show you the interview we had with the general manager. We spoke to him about how sustainability could relate to the radio. We were at the radio to share our story and our message, and we think this is a really important way that permaculture can be expanded. I mean, we all know the, lifestyle things that, well, we don't all know, but we feel like we all know the lifestyle things that we can do to do permaculture. Small and slow solutions, they can work, they can add up. But one aspect of that is sharing the solutions with others. Yeah. If you create a grassroots movement and you can share what you're doing and share your successes with other people, then you can get a momentum, you can get other people going. So community radio, a radio station that's not for profit, that puts messages out there, not because they have an economic benefit directly to the people who are hiring to have the message put out there, but that they just have a general community benefit. This can share the message. So community being brought closer together, this is good for permaculture. Being able to share what things we can all do that can add up. This is how the radio can help us put permaculture forward. And this is what brought us to the River radio station. So let's go have a look. Well, here we are.
So here we are at the River Studio in Mount Forest, interviewing the general manager, Chris Holden.
Hello.
So tell us about the river. Where is it at? What is it?
So River Radio Station, community radio station in Mount Forest, Ontario, Canada. Wide coverage area. We cover here in Wellington North, over to South Huron Township, Bruce Township, to the edge of Orangeville and Dufferin County as well. So we've got a fairly wide region that we can reach for listeners. We have a very eclectic collection of music on the air.
I like that.
From the 70s up till hip hop and current dance music, which is it's a wide range for listeners. Yeah. If someone likes country music radio, they probably won't just want to listen to. You might want to find something that was all country all day long, but this is that eclectic mix of things.
Perfect.
I find for community radio stations, particularly like ours, it's the connection that we can give to the local community, the listeners.
Indeed.
Be it with people that guests that come on and into our shows to be interviewed, the people that do the shows themselves, as well as those voices and that connection to the community that keeps people, I think, coming back to listen again.
Oh, for sure.
Also available online, right?
Yes, we're online, 887theriver.ca.
So how long have you been with the radio station here?
I've been here since September, October of 2020. Came in during the pandemic, which was a lot of fun.
Time to do radio, for sure. Yeah.
Well, it helped because we couldn't do stuff in the studio in the initials. We were closed from having guests coming in, but we could do so much stuff with Zoom in those days. So
right.
We've all learned how to use Zoom and distance. It doesn't seem to matter as much as it used to be literally in the place that you're working in or at.
Right.
So a community radio station, obviously you have a way of connecting community. Can you think of any ways that the river is encouraging community or creating more sustainability within the community?
I think that it's all a hand in hand in a step-by-step process. So we find that, for example, something might come up on the news that we'll talk about in a local news aspect, and then be able to tie it into a town hall show. And then it also ties into a farm talk show that we might do. Topics that come up over and over and over again. And particularly like lately, the last few years, so much about the homeless crisis in the area has been at the forefront. So we get to talk about it on town hall with the politicians on what are we doing from a political level about it. Talk on farm talk with farmers about what their contributions to the economy and how it's all it feels like a very rich tapestry where everything is definitely interlinked and interwoven. And I think that it might be subtly somehow that we're trying to bring that across. We don't try to smash people with the brick in the face, but to explain and to show that this stuff all goes hand in hand together. And from a basis of shopping local, for example, the more that you can shop locally, if you work locally, and you're earning your money in Wellington North, for example, and then you spend your money in Wellington North, that money has stayed within this economy. If you're lucky enough to have a job outside of our area and you live here and you're legally stealing from that other town to bring that money back to here and now spend it in our stores and keep that money into this economy. And I think that's just the beginning of it. And we try to tell those stories and get that message out to people of how important community is to the community you're in. It's easy to say that the place you're living in doesn't offer things and we don't have enough stuff and there's not things for people to do. We don't have enough stores and we don't have this, we don't have that. Sometimes it's hard for people to recognize that that's something that we build yourselves as a community. It's up to the community to make itself grow, be bigger, be better, do more. And I like to think that that's where we can try to help tell those stories and get that buy-in with people to get the town going and moving in that other direction. We can't stop the growth that's coming, but we can manage it in such a way that it feels advantageous to everybody. A rising tide should rise all the boats.
Indeed.
And so it's trying to get everybody into that same boat now, and let's all rise the tide together.
And I like very much that your approach to what you play and what you put out is very very diverse and very
democratic.
Yeah, very democratic. I think it's does a very good job of sort of bringing in everybody from from the whole community and sort of giving them a perspective and to sort of let their voice feel like it's heard.
It's another massive part of what we would like to accomplish. I don't know if we do. It's hard to gauge sometimes. But I like the idea that we're supposed to be a community radio station. It's not an elite thing where the bar's on the door trying to stop people being on the air. We're here to give the community a voice to come in and be on the air. So for the Lions clubs in the various towns that we have in the area that do so much for the communities they're in, as far as their charitable work goes, want them to feel that they can come in whenever they've got a story to tell or have something that they just want the community to know about. Come in and share it with the listeners. And that goes across the entire coverage region that we have. And obviously there's way more service clubs than just the Lions Club. That happens to be the main group here in Mount Forest. But we've got optimist clubs in other towns and areas, legions that are stronger in other areas than others. All of these things all contribute to the growth and development of these still small rural communities. The town may well be growing, it certainly is, but we will always be small town Ontario.
Compared to, at very least.
It'll always stay relative. We're never. We might hit a size of an Orangeville one day, but Orangeville will then be the size of a Mississauga. Mississauga will be the size of a Toronto. We'll still be the smallest town. So it's trying to maintain that what it means of the identity of a small town doesn't need to change just because it's grown in its size.
It can still be a small town while being big.
Sure, culture is a culture.
That's right.
And trying to maintain that culture in the community and share it with everybody and let everybody kind of feel that. I think that's the job of what community media does in general. We're just the radio side of that.
Absolutely. Now, I have a special interest, we have a special interest in environmental sustainability, and I definitely see that there's a value in having a voice that can go out and influence people. Do you think that there's anything that you do or that you could do with the media of radio
to help people transition to more environmentally sustainable things. Do you have any interest in that? And do you have any
Definitely.
programs that speak to that?
I mean, we do our farm talk show right now, which is very farm oriented and based. Our host Don Lewis has had his farm in town for decades in the Holstein area. And we try to bring in as many local farmers to talk about their industries, the challenges they face, how they're trying to grow their own businesses and stuff. I think it would be very beneficial to have more time devoted to things like what you guys do with Ontario Permaculture. And with that idea of sustainability, I think there is a real disconnect between how people see it because of how it's portrayed on mainstream medias, usually.
And it's not often portrayed as well. So
there's that, right? It's a hidden thing, and it feels like it's an underground thing because the media doesn't push it as being a highlighted mainstream thing. So I think that there is definitely a role for all medias to be able to start helping them push that, highlight a bit more that there are other ways, there are alternatives. And it allows you then to get the message out that this isn't a crazy talk thing. This is, here's all the logical reasons, here's the real here's the facts behind
the data,
the data on that. And it becomes irrefutable to people. So
well, and it becomes familiar as well. That even if someone has a really grand idea and it's well proved out, if it's not familiar to you, you naturally want to resist it. But if you start to hear more and more about people doing things that are just a little bit different from the way we have been doing them, or even going back to a way we used to do them, then it gets people more used to it. That's why I love living in Mount Forest, because we've got the Mennonite community, we've got the horse and buggies, we've got the farming community, and lots of people, splitting their own firewood and growing their own vegetables, and lots of trees on the laneways. Those are things that, they harken to the past, and maybe they might be lost in the rush to industrialization. But for now, we've got that, and I really love that about this place.
Yes.
One of our newest shows that we started recently is Mind, Body, and Spirit, where they're in Kirsten Town. And the aim of that was to try to promote more of the mental health side of things. Like we talk a lot as a society about the idea that it's okay to talk about mental health and talk about these things. But in a lot of ways that boils down to one day a year, Bell says, let's talk. And everybody tweets, let's talk. And that's pretty much the extent of the conversation with a lot of people.
Start, for sure.
To start pushing more, as you say, to make it familiar and to make it mainstream. So to have an hour a week where we let Erin talk about, with bringing guests, talk about Reiki, talk about other alternative treatments and things to medicine to help people on a mental side of things, while it is feeling like such a prevalent conversation in society. How deep has that conversation gone? The deeper you can get it, and the more actual times you're hearing it talked about, and the realities of the conversation, as opposed to just saying, let's talk about this, opens those doors more for more and more people to think it is normalized and to talk about it more. In the same vein, I really think to talk more about this environmental side of things and the idea that sustainable off-grid living, nobody's saying it's easy, but nothing's easy. Fighting the economy right now is not easy. So to make that more mainstream and acceptable to people will probably open that door to seeing more people embracing the lifestyle.
I do hope so. I do hope so, indeed.
Well, it's been a great pleasure speaking to you today. Thanks for having us in the studio.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, great.
And thanks for having me on your show.
Indeed. This has been great fun. Thank you so much, friends. We had a wonderful time, and we hope you had as much fun watching as we had fun putting it together.
Thanks to everyone who likes and shares this video. It really helps the channel out when you do that. Thank you to our subscribers. And thank you so much to all the people who support us on Patreon, on GoFundMe, and all the ways that you show you care. We really, really appreciate you. And if you'd like to be one of those people, there's information in the description below on how you can do that.
So come on back for our next episode. We have plenty more to share with you. We hope to see you again sometime soon. Take care. Mwah. So we had a wonderful time. We hope you had as one more.
More blooper reels.
From the reel. It's more from the top with feeling.
I like that nod, like, yeah, that was bad.
Well, you know,
You should stop.
You have an opportunity to start again, and they were starting to pick up apart, so it's just, you know, it works out. Okay, so back at the eye. So, Misty, why are we doing radio for permaculture?
Well, that's a good question, Bryce.